Are you confused about the difference between a waterfall versus an agile approach to project delivery? Here's an easy explanation. Imagine there were two brothers, and they each decide to build a treehouse. One of them takes the time to draft out the treehouse in detail, taking careful measurements and paying attention to the design. He finishes the draft before cutting any wood. This is represented by the drawing on the left and is the equivalent of a waterfall approach, where you plan everything at the start. However, the other brother doesn't bother with the draft. He first starts cutting wood to build a base for the treehouse, with the intention to adapt the treehouse along the way. This is represented by the diagram on the right and is the equivalent of an agile approach. So let's look at some of the key differences between a waterfall and an agile approach. In a waterfall approach, the end goal is very clear, so you can create and follow a plan. And because you have a plan, it's easier to estimate when a project will finish and how much money it might cost. Having said that, once you've started, you can't change the end goal. And in that sense, there is no flexibility. One scenario where you might use a waterfall approach is building a bridge. In an agile approach, the end goal is less clear. It might be the kind of project where you need to explore more. So you start somewhere and adapt and iterate as you go. Because you don't have a firm plan, it's harder to estimate when a project will finish and how much money it might cost. However, unlike a waterfall approach, the end goal can change and you have more flexibility. One scenario where you might use an agile approach is in the development of a mobile app, where you might release a first version of the app, but then add new features and functionality over time. It's not so much about whether waterfall is better than agile, but using each approach in the right situation. And regardless of whether you use waterfall or agile, there's still a lot of work to be done actually managing a project on a day-to-day basis.